Hey guys, today we're going to talk about how Scott lost nearly $150,000 on his home purchase back in 2006, all because he was working with the wrong realtor. I'm Jim Buche with Buche Realty, and this is Scott Hodge with Homeport Residential. We're both real estate brokers here in San Diego, and today we're going to give you 3 tips to help you find the best realtor so nothing like that happens to you. Let's dive right in. So, $150,000 loss, that's a bad day for anyone. So, tell me, how did it happen?
Yeah, it was a really bad day, Jim. I was in the Navy back in 2006, and at the time, I wasn't a realtor, didn't have any real estate experience. I was being transferred to a new duty station in Orlando, and I just sold a house I owned for 5 years at my last duty station in Jacksonville for a solid profit of around $80,000.
Oh, yeah, that's, I think you had told me it was like a $200,000 property, so that's pretty substantial profit.
Yeah, considering when I bought the home, I paid around $250,000. It was a substantial return on investment. So needless to say, I was really optimistic about owning real estate at this point. So I randomly found a realtor in the Orlando area to help with my home search. In the end, I should have researched the realtor I was going to work with. I didn't, and it really ended up costing me.
How about you tell us how that went down? What happened?
Yeah, so while I was looking for homes, I started seeing a lot of stories online and in the news talking about the meteoric rise in home prices over the previous 2 years. I'm sure you remember those in the news at the time. And I also noticed 2 things. There were a lot of homes for sale in the Orlando area, and home prices seemed very high, just like the home I just sold in Jacksonville. Now, obviously, I didn't mind it as much for the sale, but during the purchase process, it gave me a very uneasy feeling. So I asked my realtor point blank, do you think a housing market crash is coming? And are home prices going to be dropping soon? And he told me in no uncertain terms, definitely not. He said he expected home prices to stop rising at the same pace that they had been, but he didn't expect home prices to drop at all. Well, we all know how that story ended up. And it turns out that Orlando was one of the hardest hit cities in the US, with home prices dropping by around 20% within 6 months after my home purchase. 3 years later, I deployed to San Diego, so when I had to sell the home, it ended up selling for around $90,000 less than I paid for it, and that was after I had put in about $60,000 worth of upgrades into the home. So overall, I lost about $150,000 for not researching the realtor I was going to work with.
Ouch, that's a chunk of change. So let me ask you a question, and without naming names, of course, do you think it was a question of honesty with that realtor, or do you think he just didn't know that there was trouble brewing in the market? And I guess my follow-up to that would be, does it really matter in the long run?
Those are really great questions, Jim, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about that situation, especially since I began my career in real estate. As a realtor, it's our job to know the housing market in detail for the areas we serve, and that includes about how many houses are for sale in our region, and most importantly, the way that the market is trending either up or down, because that's going to impact basic supply and demand. Now, you and I both know, before the housing shortage that we're seeing that's across the country right now, that inventory levels in San Diego sat at around 6,000 homes for the last 5 years, right? Peaked at about 8,000 homes in late 2018. But if we notice that, let's say there's suddenly 18 to 20,000 homes for sale in the San Diego market, we would know that prices are going to drop, and we'd make certain to let every client know that we're working with that they understood this information before they decided to purchase a house.
Yeah, I totally agree, Scott. Any decent realtor should have awareness of the inventory levels, not just for purposes of market prediction, but for how to handle day-to-day transactions and offers, things like that. Even though I wasn't active in the real estate market until 2007, just knowing how important market awareness is to my daily business now makes me think that a competent realtor should have seen the writing on the wall back then.
Yes, and at a minimum, knowing that vital information would have at least helped me make a more informed decision about whether or not to buy that home.
And what do you think you would have done differently then?
Oh, that's easy, man. I wouldn't have bought the home, and I would have rented during that tour in Orlando. It ended up being a very expensive lesson for me and for many Americans at the same time. I was just lucky that I had enough in savings to cover the loss, stable income, and a job that I loved in the Navy.
So after all that, then, most importantly, what advice would you give people to ensure they don't end up in a similar situation themselves when they're considering buying or selling?
So 3 things, Jim. Interview your agent and ensure they have each of the following characteristics. Number 1, market knowledge. Every good agent should have a firm understanding of their local market and, most importantly, the trends that it experiences throughout their career. Number 2, communication. You want an agent with excellent communication skills. Not only do they need to communicate effectively with you so they can address your questions and concerns, they need to be able to communicate effectively with other agents so they can advocate on your behalf. For example, why they should select your offer over another buyer's offer, or when you're in a home purchase, why the seller should consider making concessions on your behalf.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and number 3, finally, you want an agent that puts your interests first. Be wary of agents that are more interested in making a sale or their own commission instead of trying to really understand your goals and what you want and need out of your home purchase. Honestly, this is the thing that I think about the most when it comes to that agent back in Orlando. If he would have truly been looking out for my best interests, when I told him, hey, I'm only going to be in the area for a couple of years and I'm never coming back, the correct advice would have been to rent.
Yeah.
But in the end, he made the sale and I learned a very expensive lesson. But at the end of the day, that experience has allowed me to put myself in my client's shoes and give them the advice that makes sense for their unique situation and, most importantly, that puts their interests first. I want to wrap up by saying that there are a lot of amazing agents out there who are out there working hard every single day for their clients. However, it only takes one bad agent to put you in a terrible position when you're buying a home. I also want to mention that even though I know I lost a lot of money on that home sale in Orlando, I've made money on 3 out of the other 4 homes that I bought and sold throughout my career in the Navy. So real estate done right is a great investment and can be very rewarding at the same time. But if you have a bad agent or buy the wrong home, it can really end up costing you big time. So it's more than worth a little extra effort to make certain you're working with the right agent that's looking out for your best interests.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you there, Scott. Your assessment's great. And like you said, there's good agents out there, but I've seen plenty of bad actors as well, mostly in my former law practice. Now, that practice focused mostly on home sales gone bad, and in those cases, I'd say 90% of the time when things went wrong, it was because there was poor communication or because the agent didn't have the client's best interest in mind. So just for so many reasons, it's really important to take that extra time to vet whomever you choose to represent you. It is, after all, the biggest purchase most people make. Plus, it's a given that you're going to be spending a fairly good amount of time with your agent, so there's a practical consideration, and you want to be able to work well with that agent. I've definitely talked long enough here, but I want to circle back around to those 3 points that you made. 1, market knowledge, and I'm going to go ahead and lump experience and competence in there as well. 2, good communication, that's really important. And 3, your best interest.
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly there, Jim. Well, guys, I think that wraps it up for this topic. I hope you found this discussion useful. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that, feel free to put them in the comments section below, or you can always reach out to Jim and I directly. Our contact information is in the description section. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.